Well, I have some thoughts on the blog post that George R. Martin posted today and HBO's response, and also the podcast. There was a podcast that came out a few hours ago, Ryan Condal, who is the showrunner. So I have some thoughts, and I am a fan of the show. I'm very leery of making harsh critical statements about showrunners and writers and decisions that they do. And we have source material that the showrunners obviously read and glean from and make their decisions based off of that and their own personal view on what should be shown, right? And so I will link the blog post and the podcast down in the description so that you could check it out yourself and you can let me know what you think of what is being said on in both. Here's my take on it. I think turning an existing book and adapting it to a TV show is a very, very tall task. I think it's difficult. I my expectation when I go into a show like this is not to have every stinking detail that is in the book in the show. I think that's really unrealistic and can be very expensive and can be difficult to accomplish given the parameters. And I've talked about this, and I'll link another video that talked about this, about what happens when a studio comes in and cuts budget and basically puts you in a corner as a creative, and you have to make really difficult decisions based on the limitations that are placed on you with budget and um, everything else that comes with that. So I don't know what that feels like as a creative, as a writer, as a showrunner. I don't know what that feels like. I know that decisions have to be made to accommodate and to work within the parameters that are given to each show. I've seen this happen, and this is something that did happen with season 2. We went from 10 episodes to 8. That is called a budget cut. That I don't think that is necessarily a this is just based on story. This is a story decision. We can fit all this. It's a budget cut is what that is. Articles that I've read points to that. There was a budget cut and decisions needed to be made. Okay. That being said, I'm reading Martin's blog, and it sounds like there were a couple changes that probably ends up in the long term being, like, initially they could be small changes, but in the long term there are very big changes and changes the character. There's a lot of things in this that just made me go, wow, I wish those things didn't change. I wish that they would have stayed the same. And I'm not sure what people are really thinking. It sounds like, and I'll just quote the blog here. Again, I'll link the blog in the description. It says, when Ryan first told me what he meant to do ages ago, back in 2022, might be, I argued against it for all these reasons. So he's referring to some changes that were made, specifically with blood and cheese. Okay, I didn't argue long or with much heat. However, the change weakened the sequence, I felt, but only a bit. And Ryan had what seemed to be practical reasons for it. They did not want to deal with casting another child, especially a 2-year-old toddler. Kids that young will inevitably slow down production. There would be budget implications. Budget was already an issue on House of the Dragon. It made sense to save money wherever we could. Okay, so that's also is another confirmation that budget has been an issue with House of the Dragon, and they were tight on it and they needed to save money. Okay. So, moreover, Ryan assured me that we were not losing Prince Maelor, simply postponing him. Queen Helena could still give birth to him in season 3, presumably after getting with child late in season 2. That made sense to me, so I withdrew my objections. He says he still loved the episode. So that was one instance. The thing about this is that if you change something, then it changes the sequence of events afterwards, right? And so that's the part that I'm kind of annoyed by this whole thing. because it just, without giving away any spoilers, it just changes some things. I'm not here to spoil any season 3 ideas because there is some of this in this article, so just beware when you're reading it. He does warn when he's about to step into some major spoilers. So I just think, I think two things. One, why not have George be very much involved, more involved in the writing and in story decisions than he is? I don't understand that. I don't know if it's an ego situation. Like, I think it takes a lot of humility to go, I'm a showrunner, but I want to bring you in and have your thoughts on some of the things that we, and I it sounds like Ryan does that. To what extent, I don't know. But it does sound like he does let George know what's up. I'm upset for George. George really should just finish his books, but this has caused quite the stir online. And HBO's response is interesting, and I'll read that. And this is courtesy of Variety. So, there are few greater fans of George R. R. Martin and his book Fire and Blood than the creative team on House of the Dragon, both in production and at HBO. Commonly, when adopting a book for the screen, with its own format and limitations, the showrunner ultimately is required to make difficult choices about the characters' stories the audience will follow. We believe that Ryan and his team have done an extraordinary job, and the millions of fans the series has amassed over the first two seasons will continue to enjoy it. And I guess my comment to that is, we wouldn't be having this conversation if HBO didn't come in and cut budgets with a show that's successful and probably would do well with 2 extra episodes. The churn rate on your streaming services wouldn't be so high. People would stick around a little longer. There's so many reasons why I think two adding 2 more episodes to season 2 would have been just the way to go, right? But they didn't. They cut budget, and now they're in this position. Now they're having to respond to a statement that George made in his blog, and it sucks. It sucks. It's like, this doesn't need to happen. If certain decisions weren't made, this certainly didn't need to happen. So I just think he's the author of this stuff. I don't know how much weight he has in decisions. So let me know your thoughts, and we'll talk to you later.